In 1920, one man promised something impossible: to double your money in 3 months.
And thousands believed him. His name became, to this day, the very word for one of the most dangerous scams there is.
Things you've never seen now revealed.
This is Money in Detail.
"50% profit in 45 days. Read that again. 50% in a month and a half. In 1920, a bank might pay you 5% in an entire year. And here was a man promising 10 times that in a fraction of the time. Everyone knew it sounded too good to be true. And yet in the summer of 1920, a line of people four abreast wrapped around an entire city block in Boston, thousands of them, clutching their savings, shoving to get to the front, all to hand their money to this one man. His name was Charles Ponzi. And what happened to that crowd is such a powerful lesson that 100 years later, his name became the very word we use for one of the most dangerous scams in the world. This is exactly how that scam works, so you never fall for it.
Charles Ponzi was an Italian immigrant who had come to the United States with almost nothing. And at the end of 1919, he opened a company in Boston with a respectable-sounding name and a dazzling promise. He told people he had found a clever, perfectly legal way to make enormous profits, fast. His secret, he claimed, involved something called the International Postal Reply Coupon. It was a small voucher you could buy in one country to prepay the postage for a reply from another. And because Europe's currencies had collapsed into chaos after the First World War, these coupons were dirt cheap in some countries and worth far more in the United States. Ponzi said he bought them cheap abroad and sold them dear at home, pocketing the huge difference.
And here's the clever part, the part that fooled everyone. On paper, the idea actually made a kind of sense. There really was a price difference in those coupons. So when people heard the explanation, they didn't think this is a lie. They thought, I don't fully understand how this works, but this man must be a genius. And that is the first great warning sign of almost every financial fraud in history. The danger doesn't usually look like a crime. It looks like the smartest person in the room, doing something too sophisticated for you to question. Ponzi wrapped a simple lie inside a complicated story, and the complexity itself became his disguise.
But there was a problem, an enormous one. Ponzi never actually bought the coupons, or very nearly never. A later audit found that out of all the millions he collected, he had bought around $30 worth of coupons. $30. So if he wasn't profiting from coupons at all, where did the money come from? The money he used to pay his investors. This is the beating heart of the entire scam, and you need to understand it forever. The money he paid to his earlier investors came, quite simply, out of the pockets of his newer investors. There were no profits. There was no real business. There was only money changing hands, from the ones arriving last to the ones who had arrived first.
And for a while, this works beautifully. The first investors receive their promised 50%. They are astonished and they rush out to tell everyone they know. Word explodes. More people pour in, bringing more money, which lets him pay the next wave, who tell their friends in turn. It's a snowball. In just 8 months, Ponzi took in around $15 million, a staggering fortune for the time. He bought a mansion, a chauffeur-driven luxury car. He was the toast of Boston, treated like a financial wizard. And this is where the real danger hides. At its peak, the scam looks like the greatest success on earth. It never looks safer than in the very instant before it collapses.
And decades later, another man would take this very same trick and scale it to a size that would make Ponzi look small, stealing billions of dollars over decades without ever being caught. That story is for the next episode. But first, you need to see how Ponzi's entire fantasy came crashing down, and the single impossible calculation that destroyed it.
Because every scheme of this kind carries inside itself the seed of its own destruction. It can only survive as long as more new money is coming in than old money is going out. The moment too many people decide to cash out at once, or new investors stop arriving, the house of cards falls. And in Ponzi's case, it was a newspaper that pulled the first thread. The Boston Post began to investigate, and they asked a financial expert to run a simple piece of arithmetic, a calculation that nobody had stopped to do in the middle of all the euphoria.
And that calculation destroyed everything. The expert worked out the following. For Ponzi to have genuinely profited from those coupons, at the scale of money he was handling, there would have needed to be around 160 million of those postal coupons circulating in the world. 160 million. But in reality, there were only about 27,000 of them in existence. In the entire world, 27,000 against 160 million required. The gap was so absurd that it proved, mathematically, that it was impossible for him to be doing what he claimed. The whole business was an illusion, held up by nothing but people's trust. And trust, once it cracks, vanishes in the blink of an eye.
And the rest came fast and cruel. The newspaper discovered that Ponzi had already been convicted of a similar crime years earlier in Canada. Even the publicist he had hired to polish his image turned against him and denounced him, saying the man could hardly add. People panicked and rushed to withdraw their money all at once. And then the naked truth appeared. An audit showed Ponzi owed around $7 million and had only $3 million. The money simply wasn't there. On the 12th of August, 1920, Charles Ponzi was arrested. His company collapsed, dragging several banks down with it. In the end, investors recovered only about 37 cents on every dollar they had handed over. The rest had turned to smoke.
Now, why does a story from 100 years ago matter to you today with your phone in your hand? Because Ponzi's scam never died. It only changes its clothes. Every scheme that promises guaranteed income, high returns with no risk, fast profits that no one can quite explain, is the same machine from 1920 wearing a new mask. Once it was postal coupons. Then it became a secret investment fund. Today, it might be a digital coin, an app, a private group promising to multiply your money. The technology changes. The trick is always the same. Pay the old with the money of the new, and pray that nobody asks to cash out all at once.
So hold on to this lesson, because it's worth more than any investment. When someone offers you a return that's too good to be true, and they can't explain to you, in plain and simple words, exactly where that money comes from, you are not looking at an opportunity. You are looking at a possible Ponzi scheme. Ask the one question nobody in that Boston line ever asked: where does the profit actually come from? If the answer is confusing or far too complicated, or if they tell you it's a secret, then you already have your answer. Charles Ponzi didn't rob people with a gun. He robbed them with a promise. And your single best defense against the next promise, like it is to understand in detail how money moves.
Now tell me in the comments, have you ever heard of a scheme promising to double your money? Or do you know someone who nearly fell for one? Write it down. I read them all. And your story might warn someone else. If this video opened your eyes, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone you want to protect. It's what helps this channel grow. And don't miss the next episode. The man who turned this very same trick into the biggest fraud in history, stealing billions for decades without anyone noticing. See you there, here on Money in Detail.